which was a jump of faith, really, because it was hard to give up a full-time income. I worked for the Board of Education prior to doing this. Anyway, shortly after that, I became a member of a group called the Artists for Conservation Foundation, whose mission is to promote wildlife and habitat conservation, biodiversity, sustainability, and environmental education through art that celebrates our natural heritage. The AFC is the world's leading collective of artists who celebrate the natural world. So one of their other groundbreaking initiatives that they started 5 years ago was the Flag Expeditions program. We've had expeditions in Panama, the Bhutan, the Himalayas of northern India. That expedition occurred in 2007, and I was very blessed to be an accompanying artist on that trip, which for me in 2005 when they came up with the program, immediately, I think every artist did it, we started thinking, oh, if we could do this, where would we go? And I have always been fascinated by the Galapagos Islands. So my proposal, which I put together and submitted to them, was a successful proposal last year. It isn't just enough to look at your subject, it's not just enough to observe it. And for me, I want to paint more than a pretty picture. So for me, I need to get to know my animals, and that means a relationship. And that's how I view our relationship with the natural world, as a relationship, much the same way that we need to nurture our relationships with our friends and our family and our loved ones. I believe we need to nurture our relationship with creation as stewards of creation. And the way I do that is to celebrate the natural world through my art, and hopefully to inspire people with my art. This is a chickadee up here in this corner. I'm lip feeding that chickadee a live waxworm. And in the other picture, I've got hairy woodpeckers. That's a series for years. I've got a family of them that comes one after the other to my backyard. They get to know me, they trust. So this all contributes to what it is about Galapagos that attracted me to the islands. Some of you have maybe been there, or you've heard rumors about the islands, that the animals there are very unique to the islands, but they also experience no fear of people. So you can get up close and personal. For me, looking through a pair of binoculars at a little dot a mile away just doesn't turn my crank. So I want to be able to see the eyelashes on that bird. I want to be able to study that animal and observe its behavior and get to know something about its personality, because they're all individuals. They don't all look the same, and they all have different characteristics that make them what they are. The AFC has certain objectives that they want to see you fulfilling if they're going to award you the fellowship. And you then have your personal objectives, and hopefully there's a marriage between the two. Obviously, I'm going there to explore and observe. I'm then going to document. The Artists for Conservation gives each artist a beautiful leather-bound sketch journal. It's quite heavy to lug around, but we do a combination of sketches and diary in that journal of our experiences. And because of the heavy conservation focus, they'd like to see you collaborating with either scientists or researchers or conservation groups that are active in that area. My method of collaboration was to hook up with a biological reserve on one of the islands, and I spent time there actually working on projects that they were involved in. In exchange for that, I had access to restricted areas. The Galapagos is a very restricted area. Tourists and visitors just can't go where. And then obviously I'm going to come home and I'm going to create a body of work using my reference that I've gathered, my sketches, my video, my photographs. And this is what you do when you're bored on the plane. You photograph the screen on the back of the seat in front of you. And as you can see, I was flying over Panama when I took this picture, but it serves a purpose now. The Galapagos Islands are part of Ecuador. They belong to Ecuador. They're 900 kilometers from the coast of Ecuador in the Pacific. My goal on this day was to get to the cliff at the very, very back of the screen. Anyway, when I got to the end, I was rewarded with a colony of swallowtail gulls. These are endemic to the Galapagos. As you can see by the green dot, they are, at this time, they're not under any threat, but they only exist on the islands and nowhere else in the world. And they are the world's only nocturnal gull. And of course, Galapagos sea lions littering the beaches everywhere. It was pupping season when I was there, so there were nursing mothers everywhere. And of course, they can sleep anywhere. I wish I could sleep that comfortably. They were sleeping on rocks, they were sleeping on sand. And then these also, the interesting thing about these animals is you can snorkel and swim with them. They're very playful. The young ones are very curious. You don't want to go near the bulls because they're often patrolling the beaches and they are very territorial and could hurt you. I haven't heard of any instances, but these animals are endangered. And these are marine iguanas. They are the only seagoing lizard in the world. These iguanas dive, swim, and eat algae off the bottom of the floor of the ocean. They can only be in the water for 12 minutes before their body temperature starts to drop to dangerous levels and they need to get out because their movements will slow down. So they feed, the larger ones swim out to sea, they feed, then they come back and they warm themselves in the sun by bring their body temperatures back up. And I thought I would share with you a couple of the most impressive insects that I saw while I was there. I did see one scorpion very briefly, but giant huntsmen are harmless. However, I had 5 of them as a roommate at the reserve. This one was to my left. This lady was directly above my face in my bed sitting on an egg sac. And the other one was to my right. And there was one beside the door. And every night I would come into my room with my flashlight, turn the light off, and locate all 5 of them. Then I would get under my mosquito net. And in the morning I would get up and they would have receded further into the crack in the daylight and I would locate all 5 of them again. And somehow it was strangely comforting to know that they were there, and that they were moving. I don't know what they did once I went to sleep, but as long as they were there when I went to bed and when I got up, I was okay with it. This next creature that you're going to see on the video clip is a Galapagos centipede, and it is rumored to be the most feared creature on the islands because it inflicts a very nasty bite, and it has a reputation for running up pant legs. And as you'll see, I did this just so everybody could have some scale. Got my hand down there beside it, and very bravely did some video footage. Now, these are Galapagos giant tortoises. These are dome-shelled tortoises. They are the designer and engineers of the ecosystem in Galapagos. They're a keystone species. They're the largest land-based herbivore on the island. By keystone species, I mean that any island where the tortoise is absent, biodiversity on that island is going to suffer dramatically. What these tortoises do is that they move from the highlands to the lowlands through the undergrowth of the forest. They open gaps in the forest by pushing through. They generate a tremendous amount of semi-digested biomass, or poo, which attracts insects, which in turn feed and attract warblers, finches, mockingbirds, lava lizards. Their droppings decompose very quickly into soil. Seeds that pass through their intestinal tracts germinated much more quickly than seeds that don't. So they're very, very important that they're there. Tourism has gone from 17,000 people a year in 1980 to 170,000 last year in 2009. That's a huge jump. The inhabited islands are undergoing severe ecological change, and the primary threats are surging tourism and introduced species and habitat disruption. Of course, when you get surging tourism, that's what's causing the population of the islands to increase, and then you end up having the social structure of the islands changed, which results in all sorts of social problems for the inhabitants. And that's why it's important to me to be able to use my art to raise awareness about these beautiful creatures that are our neighbors, that we share our backyards with. And we can all do our part, whether it's something as simple as, for some of us, we can write a check. For some of us, we can attend Fleming College and go and do environmental studies. For some of us, we can put up a bird feeder and not curse every black squirrel that comes by to mooch the seeds. So for me, it just boils down to relationship. And so here is my time lapse. And that will kind of wrap it up. If you have any questions, I'll hang around for a little bit.